So we had Dave McMenamin from ESPN. He reported, I believe, on Get Up or NBA Today. It was either yesterday or the day before. He said that now the Lakers are waiting to see if the Nets decide to bring KD and Kyrie back. Then we get this report from the New York Post, and I'm going to read this quote. How did we get it? This is from a source. How did we get into this situation and trade when he opted in? The source asked rhetorically. Here's the situation. He opted in, which means he had and has every intention of playing with the Brooklyn Nets. KD decides he wants out, and now everybody is talking about trading Kyrie, right? Kyrie has not asked for a trade. Now, if the Nets don't want him, that's something totally different. Kyrie has not said he wants a trade. He opted in. So where did the trade conversations come from? Is it because KD requested a trade and now everyone's like, let's trade K? Kyrie opted in. Now, I tweeted out when I saw that yesterday, I was like, how stupid do they think we are? Because, I mean, like, literally, we know the Nets front office doesn't want Kyrie. If they wanted Kyrie, they would have offered him a dope extension to make everything fit with KD so that they can move on to the future. The Nets purposefully put their foot down there, right? Kyrie, his camp nonstop leaked for weeks that he wanted to go to LA. Then Kyrie out in public gets shouted at by a fan saying, hey, when are you coming to the Lakers? And he said, soon. Like, how dumb do you think we are, man? I mean, don't get me wrong. I agree that Kyrie probably in a perfect world would have liked to have re-signed with the Nets and stayed in Brooklyn with KD. But the reality of the situation is the tension and the fracture and the awkwardness there is too much to go back. There's an outside chance that they try that. There's an outside chance that Brooklyn goes, hey, let's all just come back and do this. I'm not saying that's off the table, but it would be a weird, toxic vibe. All it takes is a 3-4 game losing streak or Kyrie missing some time again for Brooklyn to have issues. They could be right back in the situation at the trade deadline, which is probably not what they want to do, right? So, like, I still think that that this is trending towards everybody getting traded. It's just funny to see, and this is classic leverage plays, right? Like, we might bring them to camp. No, you won't. You don't want toxicity around the team when you start a new season. It's like, well, you know, Kyrie wants to stay with the Nets. No, he doesn't. He wants to go to the Lakers. That's ridiculous. We've literally heard that out of his literal mouth. Okay, so everyone, and then KD literally went to Josiah and directly requested a trade. That's just been known to be true. So we don't have to lie to each other here about what's happening. This is all a leverage play. There's one thing and one thing only that can put Brooklyn's train back on the tracks, and that's Kevin Durant. If Kevin Durant comes out and straight up, I don't know, goes straight to Woj and says it, or comes straight out and says it himself and goes, hey, I changed my mind. I don't want to be traded. I'm going to, at least not right now, I'm going to come back and play this season with the Nets. Kyrie's coming with me. We're going to make this thing work. If KD says that, then it will happen. Because then you can count on KD and Kyrie to go into camp motivated and taking it seriously because you know it's their idea. You know what I mean? But if Sean Marks forces them to come back to camp, there's so much more risk that can come from that. So everything is hurtling towards these guys getting traded. The one thing that could pull them back onto the tracks is KD coming out and saying, I would rather stay. Okay, so like unless we hear that specifically, all of this is just noise in a negotiation play. So Bobby Marks said that he would have Steph second behind MJ all time. Now, you guys have heard me talk about this stuff before. I'm not changing your minds. Like that's the reality of the situation. Like you Warriors fans out there, and I know a lot of you listen to the show, like Steph's your guy, man. I just broke that down for you. For a decade, for better or worse, he's been your guy, and he's come through for you so many times. So like I understand your loyalty to him, and I totally get it. It's literally the same way that I feel about LeBron. I grew up watching him. He came through as I was a fan of his. He came through so many times that like I just have this faith in what he can do on the basketball court. So it's difficult for people to convince me that a Kevin Durant or a Steph is better than him. So I get that. And I'm not trying to convince you guys. I'm just going to give you my impression of the situation. Now, Steph, we're going to do an in-depth player ranking as we get into the further into the summer, as we get kind of out of some of this free agency stuff and out of this trade stuff, and actually in the real dog days of NBA summer, which is like August, we're going to spend a lot of time on lists, so I will get deeper into this. but I think Steph is probably the 5th or 6th best player of all time. And you guys remember, I rank mine different. I keep a list of bigs and then I keep a list of perimeter players. But in that list of perimeter players, I have LeBron, I have MJ, I've got Magic Johnson, I've got Kobe, and then it's like Steph and Larry Bird are kind of competing for that 5th spot there. Steph is my 2nd favorite player of this era. I have the utmost respect for Steph. But make no mistake, guys. There's a reason why LeBron is in the conversation with MJ. I don't think he's ahead of MJ, but there's a reason why he's in that conversation. His resume is completely insane. I need to read this to you guys just so you can get a feel for what I'm talking about. So obviously, Steph has matched LeBron in titles. LeBron has 4 titles. Steph has 4 titles. That's where the comparisons end. Conference titles, LeBron has 10, Steph has 6. MVPs, LeBron has 4, Steph has 2. Finals MVPs, LeBron has 4, Steph has 1. 2 if you count 2015, which I count, so 4-2. All-Star appearances, LeBron 18, Steph 8. First team All-NBA, this is wild. LeBron 13 times media members thought he was a top 5 player in the NBA. Steph 4. All defense selections, LeBron 6, Steph 0. LeBron has 17,000 more points than Steph, 6,000 more rebounds, and 5,000 more assists. That's basically one Giannis career. So if Steph went to have Giannis's career from right now, Giannis's total career to this point, he would just get to where LeBron is, and he'd still be about 3,000 points behind. Like, that's how ridiculous LeBron's resume is. That's why he's in the conversation with MJ. Again, I wouldn't put him ahead, but that's why he's there. And so, like, I'm not going to convince you guys. I'm just going to say, like, you know when the LeBron fan says he's ahead of MJ and how ridiculous it sounds because MJ won 6 titles in 8 tries with Scottie Pippen as his best teammate when he was miles better than anybody else in the league? It was blasphemy to even mention another person's name in his breath. That's how good MJ was. That's how ridiculous LeBron fans sound when they say LeBron was ahead of MJ. That's how ridiculous Steph fans sound when they say Steph is ahead of LeBron. And that's all I'm saying. Like, it's okay for Steph to be the 6th best perimeter player of all time. That's ridiculous. The dude played, 3 years of college basketball. The dude had horrible ankle injuries that disrupted the beginning of his career. He's the only guy on the list who's as small as he is. It's ridiculous. Sorry about that. It's ridiculous that he's had the career that he's had with what he's been given. He has massively outperformed anything you could have ever hoped or expected from him, and he still is playing basketball. But let's not get crazy. That's all we're saying here. And then even if we look at the absolute peak, so I think Steph's absolute peak was this season. I thought he was an unbelievable defensive player this season. And in terms of, if you actually factor in the way defenses guard him compared to 2016 and 2015 when they still didn't really know how, and for him to be as efficient as he was, to have that playoff run that he just had with Andrew freaking Wiggins as his best player. I was arguing with some people up in Vegas about Steph, and I couldn't. I became the Steph defender. I was arguing with a buddy of mine, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not sure Steph has ever really carried." I'm like, "Dude, he just won a title with Andrew Wiggins as his best teammate. Like, how is that not carrying?" You know what I mean? But that to me is what encapsulates Steph's absolute peak season. This 2022 season was the best version of Steph that I saw in terms of control of the game, scoring efficiently in the playoffs, defending, being the chess master, deciphering defenses. Everything that he did to drag that team to the trophy, to me, was the peak of Steph. That said, I think LeBron had 4 seasons that were better. I think in 2013, when he was the best defensive player in basketball and a ridiculously efficient, I think his true shooting percentages was in the 60s and he was averaging 30 points in 2013 to get the 66 wins and to win the title the way he did that year. 2016, every bit as impactful defensively as he was in 2013, but a better offensive player than he was. 2018, the best peak offensive version of LeBron. Not a great defensive player that season, but the peak offensive version of LeBron. That was the best offensive player I ever saw. And then 2020, arguably is his best season because he was an all defense level defender. He didn't get voted that year, but he was an all defense level defender, and he was unbelievable in the playoff run. Shot 59% in the finals, averaging 30 to win Finals MVP, and never was even threatened on his way to the title. Like LeBron, I'm a huge Steph fan, guys. You guys know that, and again, I understand. I'm not going to change your mind, but to me, this is not close. Like Steph is fighting with Larry Bird for fifth. He's not fighting with LeBron for second. That's just, we're jumping the gun there. I read out the numbers for you. It's just too much.